In this video, we're looking at multiplying surds. We have 4 sets of multiplication questions that we'll have a look at, and we'll start with our first one. Our first surd is square root 11 times square root 7. Now we have a few steps that we need to follow. The first one is we need to check that our surds are written in simplest form. We have root 11 times root 7. 11 and 7 are both prime numbers, so they're definitely written in their simplest form. Once we have our surds written in simplest form, we simply multiply the numbers under the square roots together. 11 times 7, and we can write them under the same radical sign together, and that gives us the square root of 77. We check once again to make sure we've got simplest form. Square root of 77, well, our only two factors of 77 are 11 and 7, and neither of those are square numbers, so this is in simplest form. In our second example, we have coefficients in front of our surds. So we have 5 root 3 times 8 root 5. They're both written in simplest form. 3 and 5, they're both prime numbers, so we can't simplify them any further. So what we do is we multiply our coefficients together, 5 times 8, and then we multiply the numbers under the radical signs together, 3 times 5, and we keep them under a square root. 5 times 8 is 40. Square root 3 times 5 is 15, and there are no square number factors of 15, so that tells me that this answer is in simplest form. In our third example, we have coefficients in front of our surds, but we also have this square root of 12, which is definitely not written in simplest form. I know that I can write square root of 12 as a square root of 4 times 3. 4 and 3 are factors of 12, and 4 is a square number. So let's go ahead and simplify that surd. We have 6 square root of 4 times 3 times 2 square root of, now 6 is already simplest form. There are no square number factors of 6. And so we go through and we have square root of 4, that can come out from under the square root, and we have 6 times 2, root 3, times 2 root 6. And so we simplify a little more, and we have 12 root 3 times 2 root 6. Now we can multiply our coefficients together. 12 times 2, square root 3 times 6, which gives us 24 square root of 18. Now let's check 18. That can be simplified a little bit further because I know that I can write 18 as 9 times 2, and 9 is a square number. So let's simplify this surd a little bit further. 24 square root of 9 times 2. And then we have 24 times our square root 9 can come out as 3 root 2. And so the final answer for that one is going to be 72 square root of 2. And that's now written in simplest form. Our final example is a little bit trickier. It's the algebraic example. So we'll start by once again simplifying our surds if we can. We always want to start there. So we have square root of 15. 15 doesn't have any square factors, so we'll leave it under the square root. X to the power of 5, we can write that as x4 times x times by y squared, that's already a square term. So x to the power of 4, that's a square term now, and y squared is a square term. And we multiply that by now 12. We saw 12 before, and we know we can write that as 4 times 3, where 4 is a square number factor, times x squared, that's already a square term, times y. And we go through and we take out as many of these factors as we can, all of the square factors. So the square root of x to the power of 4 gives us x squared. That can come out. And we have y squared. Square root of y squared is just y. And that's all of our square factors, the x4 and y squared. So all of the other factors need to remain under our square root, which is 15x. Then we multiply by our second surd. So 4 is a square number, so we can do that. Square root of 4 is going to be 2. And x squared, that's a square number, so we take that out as x. And then the other factors have to remain underneath the square root, so 3 and y. Now that we've got our surds simplified, we go through and we multiply the coefficients together. So we have 2, we do the number part first, 2 times, this coefficient is a 1, 2 times 1, that's going to be 2. Then our x terms, we have x squared times another x, that will give us x to the power of 3, times y. And then we multiply the terms, or the parts under the square root, and we have 15x times 3y. We'll write that in there, 15x times 3y. So that gives us 2x cubed y. The square root of 15 times 3, that's 45, x, y. So we need to check again to make sure that our surd is simplified. So the part under the radical sign, under the square root sign, is 45xy. I know 45 can be written as a product of factors where one of them is a square number, because 45 is the same as 9 times 5. So let's write that in. 2x cubed y, square root of 9 times 5, xy. X and y, neither of those are square terms because they're not squared. And so that gives me 2x cubed y. Square root of 3, that can come out as a times 3. Square root of 5xy. And so our final answer for this surd multiplication will be 2 times 3. Multiply the numbers together first, which would be 6. X cubed y. Square root 5xy. Now we have it. So our 3 steps. First, simplify the surds if possible. Then multiply the coefficients together. And then multiply the part under the square root together. And finally, simplify if you can.